All right, let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of a frequency program where we are classifying customers based on how much they are worth to the organization. A couple of quick quotes here. Unless the database provides you with new profitable strategies, it's useless. And so the whole point behind database marketing is coming up with new strategies or new ways to approach your current strategies. Second, the power of databases is its ability to provide you with the information and tools to adapt marketing strategies to the diversity of your customers. And of course, this is the notion, a little bit of the notion of customer centricity that Pete Fader mentioned early on. And that is this idea of knowing where to allocate your money and what's the best way to provide information to your customers in a way that will increase your profitability. And then finally is a quote that I got at my very first casino consulting job. Our business is much different from yours. In our business, some customers are much more important than others. This was a casino executive from way back in the good old days at Bob Stupek's Vegas World that was explaining to me how the casino business was different than all other businesses. Of course, this is sort of a funny statement for them to be making, since almost every business is one in which some customers are worth more than others. It's hard to imagine very many businesses other than those that are regulated by the government to not be able to understand that some customers are more valuable than others. The number one prerequisite for database marketing strategies is the ability to identify your best and worst customers. And of course, to be able to do that, you need individual level purchase data, and very often getting that individual level purchase data is accomplished by adding a rewards, frequency, or loyalty program. Some customers are highly profitable, but they're not very loyal. They disappear after a single or a few purchases. And in addition, they tend to be expensive to maintain. They are what we refer to as high maintenance customers. Some customers are loyal, but not very profitable. And of course, these customers are those that, while we would love for them to be, we love them being our customers, we really need them to be able to spend more money with us. In some cases, they simply don't have the income levels to support that. And then, of course, some customers are in between and can be induced to become more loyal and more profitable. That is, they have lifetime values that can be modified by CRM strategies. And of course, one of the tricks in database marketing is to identify who those customers are and then apply CRM techniques to them to increase their lifetime values. So who are your best customers? Well, typically we like to think that our best customers are our most profitable customers. I do have a funny little story for you. I have a friend of mine who was on the MBA admissions board at a Ivy League school. And it's an Ivy League school in which the MBA program gets thousands of applications every year for about 150 to 200 positions. So how did they determine which students they should admit? Well, lots of schools like ours, we use test scores and lots of those sorts of things. Well, they don't do that there. What they do is they look at the potential of each of those admitted students. How likely is it that they're going to be successful, and in some cases, highly successful, in a way that will allow them to be able to give money back to their alma mater. So in their cases, profitability is a future measure rather than a past behavior measure. So profitability, and ordinarily we would say profitability determines who our best customers are. But profitability is not the same as those customers who spend the most money with you. I'm going to give you, I have two examples written down here, but I'm just going to give you one, the McDonald's example. So you go to McDonald's and you buy sodas and French fries. You are a very profitable customer for McDonald's because those are two of their most high margin items. Sodas, even at $1 a soda, and French fries, even at the value fry price, are extremely profitable for McDonald's. On the other hand, if you go in there and you simply don't buy any of the high profit margin items and you simply buy quarter pounders, well, you're not your revenue might be the same to McDonald's, but your profitability is not. And so profitability is not the same as revenue, and most organizations would like to identify profitability as rather than your revenue. Factors that affect profitability, well, which products are purchased and their profit margin, as we just discussed. How often purchases are made, how much service is required to retain you as a customer, and how much CRM is required to retain you as a customer. Since both services and CRM, to some degree, cost money. All right, and then we talk about loyalty. Loyalty is both behavioral and cognitive. Repeat purchase behavior is a measure of loyalty based on past, in this case, past behaviors. Cognitive commitment is this notion of this is my brand. This, I have friends who only play Pro V1 golf balls. That's Titleist's #1 golf ball. It's the #1 golf ball on the PGA Tour, and lots of people are highly committed to that golf ball. Now, in many cases, they have repeat purchase behavior, but they consider that to be their golf ball. I have a good friend who only buys Cadillacs. He's cognitively committed to Cadillacs, and he displays that cognitive commitment with repeat purchase behavior. So, think about degrees of brand loyalty. I'm brand loyal. Well, I buy that brand if it's on sale. I occasionally buy that brand. I buy that brand on a regular basis, but I'm willing to change my mind if there are extenuating circumstances, like that my second favorite product is on sale. They consider it to be their brand. That's my brand. I wear that brand's hat and I wear that brand's logo on my clothes. And then finally, the ultimate degree of brand loyalty is always by the brand. I'm a brand advocate. I consider myself to be almost a brand salesperson for that brand. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about classifying customers based on profitability and loyalty. Well, we typically classify customers into around 5 groups, but not necessarily. And it's certainly not quintiles, but they are, in fact, typically 4 or 5 groups, maybe 1 or 2 more than that, but that's typically what happens. The question is how? How do I break my customers into 5 groups? Well, and of course, it's not necessarily an even split of customers, and so typically the customer split looks more like a pyramid, where as you move further up the classification, from silver to gold, or from whatever the category is to the next one, there are fewer and fewer customers in each category until we get to the top category. And that is our fewest customers, but they're also our most profitable customers. Well, to do this, it takes an analysis of customers. Let me give you an example of this. Think about UNLV basketball or UNLV football and their season ticket holders. So at UNLV basketball, there are certain season ticket holders who are also scholarship donors. And so their total cost per ticket for an average basketball season might be $10,000. All right, so every ticket they buy, between the amount of money they pay for the season tickets and their scholarship donation to get those specific seats, let's say on the floor in what is called Gucci Row at UNLV basketball, or maybe center court 5 rows up or whatever, is $10,000 a ticket. On the other hand, there are season ticket holders who have season tickets in the upper decks behind the baskets. And of course, those season tickets are maybe $150 a piece. Well, it's easy to see that the people who are in the center of the court and are paying $10,000 for a ticket are much more valuable to Rebel Athletics than the person paying $150. We want all of them to be happy, and we want all of them we want to treat all of them with respect, but we're going to treat our best customers better than our next best customers, et cetera, et cetera. To be able to do that, information is needed. Now, UNLV basketball, it's easy for them to track that information because they have all of the season ticket information recorded. But that's not always the case for businesses, especially brick and mortar retail businesses that don't have any sort of a loyalty, frequency, or rewards program. So remember, typically there's an old 80-20 rule, and of course classifying customers needs to take that into account. The 80-20 rule is that 80% of your profits come from 20% of your customers. I don't know if that's true for your company or not, but it's true for very many companies. Good example of this is Caesars. When I first moved to town, Caesars was owned by Caesars World, and so it was a privately owned company that was run by a number of gentlemen, many of which were from La Costa over in California. And they used to always say, the casino is really open every day for about 100 customers. We're interested in our best 100 customers every day. The rest of the customers, it's great that they're here, and it's great that we have them, but the reality of it is that we make almost all of our profits on about 100 to 150 customers on any given day. It's an important notion for Caesars, and of course it goes, and then it then determines how you think about the rest of your business. I was in a meeting with the people from Caesars one day, and the guy said, one of the vice presidents said, the hotel rooms are for our guests to sleep in. We don't care if we make any money on them. The restaurants are for our guests and our best guests to dine in. So we don't care if they're busy or not, as long as the people who are here can go and eat and then go back to the tables. And the entertainment is for the people that are with our best players, so that they have someplace to go while our best players are gambling. So it's the notion of the 80-20 rule. So the classifications, well, typically the classifications are 5 classifications. You've heard many of these classifications. Could be gold, silver, bronze, copper, lead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, down to dirt and whatever else might be below dirt. It could also be platinum, and it could be, so different organizations have different names for these categories, but they're typically 5 basic categories. And and the bottom category is the card that everyone gets when they first sign up for the rewards program. And of course, the gold customers are those that are the most valuable to the organization. You can think of very clever names for yours, and perhaps your organization has some clever names for their 5 categories or 6 categories of classifications. All right, so let's think about that we need to be able to do a customer profitability situation analysis. Well, to do that, we need to group and array our customers in sort of most profitable to least profitable, and then look for gaps. We need to evaluate each group, and we need to evaluate each group so we can determine how much the average customer is worth to us in each group, and how much potential there are for those. You have to be careful when you're grouping customers based on how valuable you think they are to the organization, because there's a distinction between knowing how much they're worth and thinking you know how much they're worth. An example of this is that when I used to be a member at the Legacy Golf Course, we had a guy who used to hang out there. His name was Hobo Jack. Well, his name was Jack, but not me, but another Jack. And we used to call him Hobo Jack because he was there all day long, but he would never spend any money. He would use the practice facilities, and he'd use the restrooms, and he would go in and get water and fresh lemons and make his own lemonade, and it would just go on and on and on. And the people there thought that he was a pretty good customer, but the reality of it is he was just there all the time. He was not a good customer. So then we need to look at these customers, and we need to ask ourselves, can we induce them to spend more money with us and become more profitable for us? Well, the answer to that is what? Test, 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 and more testing. Relationship building versus cross-selling. So how much time and effort do we put into relationship building, and how much time and effort do we put into up and cross-selling? We need to understand our customers. What do they want? What motivates them? What's important to them? What does it take to get them to spend more money with us? Be creative. How can this information be turned into profitable strategy? And then always put yourself in your customer's shoes. Look at your business from the customer's point of view. It's always a critical aspect of not only building successful businesses with a database, but also even building successful businesses without using a database. All right, so let's talk about the different kinds of customers. All right, so we have gold customers. These are our best customers. So what do we want to know about our best customers? Well, we want to know which of these are maxed out. How do you find out whether or not that they're maxed out already? Test, test, test. We want to find out if we can get more sales promotions or more CRM will boost their spending with us and their profitability. You need to save your best thank yous for your best customers, and these are typically your best customers. You need to think about which relationship tools you're going to use to create incentives for these people to spend more money with you. And of course, we have that notion of thinking about soft versus hard benefits. Soft benefits are great because they're hard to replicate, they don't cost much, and the customer sees them often as a combination of financial, social, and structural bonds. You need to move them up the loyalty scale, right? The whole point behind our gold customers is that some people are gold customers, but they're not very loyal to us. We need to get them to be what? Brand advocates for us. Silver, bronze, and copper customers. Well, so we say, well, we've got different types of silver, bronze, and copper customers. Some are maxed out. So we have some people that are at the lowest level in our organization, but they're maxed out. They're not going to spend any more money than they currently do now with us. Could be based on them being retirees on fixed incomes. It could be that they just don't have money to spend on this particular activity. It could be just that they're not very interested in this activity. The second type of SBC customer are those that are movable with incentives. That is, we can actually get these people to spend more with us if we provide them with the right incentives. And then, of course, we have a third group that is movable, but it's expensive to move them. And in many cases, it might not be worth the time and trouble to move them up from copper to bronze or bronze to silver customers because of the cost associated with making that happen. Think about ways of making your lower level customers more profitable. Think about ways to motivate them to spend more money with you and finding out which of the incentives are the ones that will work. All right, another notion with the silver and bronze and copper customers is developing a plan to change behavior. So if they're not spending much money with you, if you have small share of wallet, if their spending with you seems to be intermittent or seasonal, think about developing a plan to change behavior. Sometimes using soft and benefits rather than hard benefits, and also adding value rather than reducing prices. I've always been a believer that you are better off to offer extras rather than reducing prices, because as you reduce prices, you become a discount location, like a discount lawyer on TV who doesn't charge as much. The problem with anything that you pay less money for is that, at least perceptually, you think it's not as valuable. And then, of course, we can go back and look at our SBC customers and maybe reclassify them based on our ability to modify their behaviors. How about dealing with lead customers? These are customers that are the least profitable to us. By the way, not all unprofitable customers are bad. And in fact, the reason that some customers are not profitable to you is because you've set up a way for them to be customers and not be profitable. If you have customers who spend money with you on a regular basis and are not profitable, it's really your fault, not the customer's fault. The customers have figured out how to get the most out of their relationship with you because you've obviously developed some way for them to create loopholes that they can spend a little and get more than they spent. Those customers that come in and buy the specials and leave, maybe those are sometimes we consider those to be the lost leader purchasers. We say, oh, those are bad customers. Whose fault is that? That's not their fault. You created the specials. What did you expect customers to do? And then, of course, there are certain customers that are optimistic customers, and we want to see if we can't figure out who our optimistic customers are and see if there isn't some way for us to change their behavior. All right. So we have different types of non-profitable customers. Let's just talk a little bit about them. They could have great potential, but you have a small, but you own a small share of their wallet. They could be smaller, limited income customers. They could be buying the wrong products, or they could be savvy. That is, you offer some sort of introductory deal, so they come in and they take your introductory deal, and then when it comes time to switch over, they switch to the next company's introductory deal. We have that going on at a local golf course where we provide memberships, and we have what are called junior memberships. That is memberships for people who are younger. But our age breaks are different than some other people's age breaks. So when our customers hit a certain level at our golf course and their rates would go up, they simply switch to a different golf course where the rates don't go up for 3 more years. And of course, what we do then is we lose all those customers because they are savvy, deal-prone customers who are taking advantage of the opportunities that people are offering to them. They're not doing anything bad. They're not doing anything illegal. They're not doing anything unethical. They are taking advantage of the situation that the retailers have made for them. Some strategies, all right, to dealing with low profit customers. Reprice goods and services. Make sure the pricing is right. Maybe cumulative discounts will help. Maybe bundling strategies like the value meal at McDonald's. Maybe we need to come up with some way of adding some additional value like the old Sports Illustrated gifts. And other incentives to move up. Think about soft benefits. It's a little bit like when you go in to buy a car and they have the base model of the car, and then every time you move up, it's $3,000 more for the second tier automobile, the second level of features on it. And of course, the argument is supposed to be to make people move up, you got to have way more features than the price would suggest so that people can sell themselves up and make that happen. In conclusion, understanding your customers is an advantage and a necessity for all database marketers. Classifying those customers so that you can come up with the right strategies for the right customers, CRM strategies, is absolutely crucial. Not all your customers are the same, so don't treat them alike. They're not the same in terms of profitability. They're also not the same in terms of what's important to them and what incentives they will respond to. And then, of course, as I've said this over and over and over again all semester long, if you know your customers, you know your business.